Okay, here we go. Hello,
Hello.
welcome to Planet Pathlings. I'm Blue Whisper. I'm this week's hostess. Next.
Hi, I'm Ben Pixie, and I was Monday's host.
Hi, I am Mashabella, and I am Wednesday's host.
And we are missing two of our hosts today, Reagan and October. Reagan should be with us shortly. And so as far as topics went, this week we discussed Magick, and for my piece of the contribution, I did politics in Magic.
Okay.
And, right?
What was that? I'm sorry, you broke up. I did Magic inside of mythology and how we use mythology in Magic.
And Blue?
Oh. I did the cultural origins and the origin of magic, basically. I really enjoyed doing the research. It was overwhelming because I found when I started there was so much information, and all I'm doing is a short video. And I found that difficult. What about you guys?
Well, mythology is not one of those small topics. It's like, the world mythologies, they're from everywhere, and but they do still all have common themes to them because they're based off of human psyche. And so when you have cultures that also had magic and divination and all this stuff, they use mythology through all of that as well to explain some of the things that was happening in their world and how they would maneuver through certain aspects. So they incorporated both magic and mythology went hand in hand. So you can't ever separate the two, basically. But it also entails a lot of psychology as well. So it's all interplaying and intertwining like a giant spider web. So I think that was the most interesting thing, is that all of our topics actually are bound together like a spider web. And you can't really pull one thread without, entangling all the other threads that go through it. They're just so interconnected, and there's so much interplay in them that even down to the mythology of world leaders creating myths around themselves to captivate and become a more powerful ruler over the culture that they're ruling over. They literally created their own mythologies, like the Arthurian legend and myth of King Arthur and Camelot was all a myth. And then you see Kennedy taking that same myth and creating his myth in the United States. But world leaders across the world, across the ages, have done that to raise themselves up to say that they are godlike or the closest to gods, and basically living gods. And that actually gave them more power in the government that they were ruling. So they constantly still today use myth to do that same thing, to dominate the population. So I
Yeah,
found all kinds of fascinating stuff.
and I would find that my topic led into Blue's topic a little bit as well, because when I was talking about the slavery aspect of ancient times and politics, especially when going through their Inquisition, um, the slaves would talk about where they brought their magics from, and which bled into kind of the cultural origins into magic. I wish there was so much more I wish I could have put in that video. And I think a lot of us had that problem where it's like, well, what to discern and put into the video? What's going to be the more poignant things that we need to focus on to get information out? And hopefully, what I was doing my video as was sort of like a tease to kind of get you guys to go to the websites, look up things for yourself, and do your own research and find your own connections with what we're talking about this week. Especially since there was so much information in every single video.
There really was. There really, I just, there are so many cultures that I could look at, and I just chose a few of them. And I could have gone with the ones that are more known to us, and even though the ones I did were somewhat known, it's, they're still origins. And I really wanted to go back. I'd love to go back and look at the tribes in the Amazon and different places, such as that. It's been the different practices everywhere in the world are utilized in our practice today in the Western world. I mean, everything just is linked, and it's really cool when you look at the links. And each of the cultures I've noticed does a divination. Each of the cultures recognizes astrology. Each of the cultures have little traditions that are very magical. And I mean, everything's just really linked. And it was really tough to figure out which way to go with it, And
Well,
it's always been a part of those cultures. It's not something new.
Well, there are a
well,
lot of things that I didn't even get to get into, especially when it concerns the pharaohs and magic. I didn't even talk about, as far as the Inquisition, the Malleus Maleficarum, and how it was basically just a book that was not in Inquisition. It was just kind of a book that was written, and that they did have other textbooks that they did follow within the Inquisition, such as the Practica Inquisition, which is the practice of Inquisition, and then there was another one which was the guidelines for Inquisition. There's just so many things that it was just hard to pick and choose to throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be revisiting these topics again at all.
well, then
You
you've
would.
got the mythology, and you realize that if you take, especially like the book that I used, Luis Alvarado was a psychologist that, through all of his schooling and getting his PhD and all of this stuff, he really was incorporating myth, magic, and everything with psychology. He studied Jung first, and when he went through all of the symbolism of Carl Jung, when he went into actual practical practice, he still incorporated what at the time would have been considered a radical view, because he was seeing all these people with mental illness and stuff, when it was really that once he started applying mythology to these people, he was able to bring them out of what would be considered sometimes maybe not the heavy psychotic mental illness, but the neurosis, the ones that most Americans suffer from right now, why they've got a whole industry around Prozac and all of that stuff. These people, a lot of times, just like they look at the social standing of children raised without fathers in the home and stuff like that, where they don't have a balance of the feminine and the masculine in the home as a positive role model. And we have a lot of issues with teaching, and myth teaches those type situations. And that's why when we have deities that come to us, it's because there is a basic symbols that come up from our subconscious that have been, since the beginning of time, no matter where you were in the world, the same symbols are universal. And that's why if you take a pantheon like the Greek pantheon, you can mix that Greek pantheon and you can place it over a pantheon in the Amazon. And there's going to still run the gamut of the psyches there, and you're going to still see a god or a goddess that corresponds to every other god or goddess that you know in the Greek pantheon. But the thing is, you can do that with pantheon after pantheon after pantheon. So a lot of times in magic they'll say, well, the question, and I think Sten's done a video on it, can you mix pantheons? Can you mix a goddess from one pantheon and a god from another pantheon and have them on the same altar? Will they work well together? Will you be able to do that? And the answer is yes, If you have the right energy mix, it's definitely yes, because there is a correspondence in every pantheon. So it's because it's really basic down to archetypes, and these archetypes are universal. Just like our tarot cards are just nothing but a bunch of archetypes in there that you're learning to um, run the basic archetypes in there, and the major arcana are always about those main archetypes. And then you have the tree of life, that again is stations of archetypes there that you're running through, and stories and characters and subplots that you work through, major human questions. So it helps us grow individually, but it also helps us bridge to the other side to make a more powerful magic. And I think every culture learned that. No matter where they were in the world, no matter what time and place they were in our time frame, they learned that. So it's very interesting to understand that someone that could have been millions of miles away from each other could come up with very similar situations, and they might have an individual way of working it, but if you look at it, it's really the same thing. They just use different terminology, and they might use different tools to work it, but they still, if you really look at it, there's more connecting it than there are separating it. It's fascinating.
Because back then they didn't have anything to turn them away from it. It was all just discovering the new world and discovering what they had in front of them. And though they might have discovered as different energies or archetypes, they were still working on discovering the world around them. And I think that what we've lost a lot today is that ability to discern the energy types and what we're really feeling. So everything is just classified under God because it's just the feeling of a higher energy. And we don't
Right.
have that. We've been so brainwashed and turned dumb by things like TV and technologies and things of that nature. We're too caught up in ourselves to notice the world around us. So unfortunately, it's just these different archetypes. Even when we do find magic, these different archetypes find us, these different energies find us, and we're not, we don't really know sense of culture ourselves being Americans sometimes, unless we really know our roots. So it just comes to us and we pick, okay, well, this matches with this energy, so we're just going to put these together. So this archetype goes with, let's say mythology, let's put it together, that's my god or goddess. And we're kind of playing this religious match game because we can't different energies or archetypes.
That's very true. And then also you've got the way to explain nature and to explain how things are functioning. And that's the other thing mythology did. It was to explain higher principles in nature. That's why animal spirits and animal totems also come into play. Some cultures use the animals actually as more deity-type centered things, but sometimes it was just to teach us the main character of that animal came through as a certain kind of archetypal energy as well, too, to explain a situation, to explain, how to maneuver in the world as well, and how to pull strength and positivity to make yourself a stronger individual and person. So it was totally encompassing in the mythology. I loved it, and mine really probably spilled over heavily into Reagan's topic as well too.
I was just thinking about that. There's something about Reagan's topic. I recently saw a posting where someone who said, I'm from Mexico and this is my holiday and all these white people are buying all our sugar skulls in Walmart and they shouldn't do that and that's wrong.
Okay, first of all, Day of the Dead.
I'm like, what?
That might somewhat be their holiday, but it wasn't their holiday. It was a Catholic Church holiday, taking it from All Hallows Eve and continuing it on that way. It still, that was one of the ways it spread. If anything, It was more Celtic than anything in nature.
Well,
But at the
my
same time,
explanation
it
is we're all
really
humans.
wasn't.
We're all humans having having a. We're
Well,
all. I'm sorry. We're all spirits having a human experience, and no
yeah.
one got a choice on what nationality they would be. We don't know what our other life was. We have no choice in what color we are, what sex we
Well,
are, where
well,
we
the thing,
live.
yeah, but
But it
the
all
thing is, what people need to understand is every culture had a semblance of Day of the Dead.
Right.
And they
Exactly.
knew that the veils were thinning because that's when their shamans and their spiritual leaders had more of a connection to the other world. And they got a lot of communication at that point. I mean, and we're talking about cultures all across the world, all
Right.
throughout time. They knew Beltane and they knew Samhain as times of veils at their very thinnest. And these cultures all came up with some kind of a semblance of an idea. Yes, today they have morphed more into Halloween, which is really a children's pastime than the traditional Samhain,
Right.
and through to the time of the Day of the Dead. So it's it's all one. It's not in any way.
Everything is linked together. Every holiday, every nationality, every culture, everything is tied together. And when I did my study in the origins, I realized that everything came from somewhere.
Well,
And it all started with the very first people that walked the earth in that area. And then it spread out from there. For us to say any one thing belongs to a certain type of people, I'm thinking, well, what does it represent? Is it representing unity and you're going to claim it for yourself? Most of the holidays, including Samhain, is, the celebrations are about unity, about, and our ancestors. Unity even with our ancestors. So no matter where our ancestors came from, and a lot of
well,
people
this
from,
is this is another thing too. Was that when Brandy came and moved in with me, her son goes to a Jewish school. She is not Jewish, um, but he had some special days off, and it's the Jewish. He gets all the regular school holidays off, but he also gets all the Jewish holidays. Well, guess what? One of their holidays was Mabon. But it wasn't called Mabon. I don't know what it's called, but there is an actual parallel to it. So where did that Jewish holiday come from? So it was still the same. So there you go.
everything's tied together, absolutely
Yes,
everything.
I mean
well,
it's
I also
because
believe that,
certain key days were important to everybody.
Right.
well, that's why I think it's silly to do the ancestry thing, because if we all do come back around, we don't know what we were the last time around unless we're lucky enough to have those past life progressions. So we could be, some Jewish accountant now when before we were a poor slave, an Indian slave, or it doesn't matter. You could very well have been a million different things before you are who you are now.
Exactly.
Or even Cleopatra.
Oh yes, everybody's Cleopatra. Everybody is somebody good. They were never
Yeah.
that bad person.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no one was.
Well, no, I take that
No.
back because a lot of people do like to be that Vlad the Impaler. They like to say that I was Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Nobody was that average Joe that was just trying to make ends meet and wasn't doing very well. Nobody wanted to be that person. Nobody. Well, I was just a slut that just laid bricks, and built churches and stuff. No, but nobody says they were that. They were always somebody, infamous or famous.
I was Marilyn Monroe. No,
Yeah.
I'm teasing. No, I've done that, and I have no idea who I was. I remember one I did. Um, I think everybody was dead from the plague, and I must have been a ghost or something. I don't know. I was standing there alone in front of a stone house with a thatched roof. There was wooden fencing up and green fields everywhere, but there were no animals and there were no people. And I felt like I was there by myself, like, okay, this is it. Everybody's gone now. Like something wiped everybody and everything out. And I don't think I was anybody famous, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very seldom that you're probably going to be that infamous. Now, but of course, somebody was going to be. I mean, somebody is, but
Yeah.
most of it is a big ego thing.
Yeah.
Or somebody doing it for show and telling you who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And planting the imagery in your mind and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Well, I know for sure I was in a war and I've seen executions up close. I don't think I was the executing. I think I was hiding while people were being executed, or I came upon an execution in progress. But I drew pictures of it. They were very vivid. And then I also had dreams of bombs falling, things of that nature. So I don't know if I was a soldier or if I was a civilian or what, but I do know one of the wars, World War One or Two, I was there.
Well, my sister is a hypnotist, and she does past life regression. I will not let her do that to me, but whatever. That's a whole other story. I still want my sister inside my head, not without a referee present. So anyway, it's like it's a different kind of issue. But when she was getting her license, that she had to do, so she used her children as guinea pigs. And her oldest daughter, she past life regressed, and what she saw was that she was an old man, and she was schlepping to the refrigerator because she was having to take care of her wife, who was her sister. So, but there was nothing fantastic about what she saw. Nothing, it was just an old man taking care of his wife, and she recognized the wife as her sister's soul. So that was it.
Huh.
She did do also her friend who was the daughter of an alcoholic and had all kinds of issues because she was this, abused by her alcoholic father and all this stuff. But when she past life regressed her, she was a pilgrim man who had a drinking problem and used to beat his wife. So it was like it was full circle karma coming back around. That she was learning what it was like to be the victim of that versus the perpetrator of that.
That's really eerie.
Yeah.
Well, we come here to learn, and we have to learn all the experiences, and sometimes we have to come back several lifetimes just to experience the full circle of an issue. So I guess if you are contracted to come down to deal with a particular issue or problem, you may have to come back 3 or 4 lifetimes to be at every aspect of that situation to learn the full effect of it. So.
And some people keep going round and round and round and round, and until they learn that lesson, they're never going to have any peace in any of their lives.
And sometimes maybe it wasn't necessarily that they needed peace, it's that that's what they were contracted to do. Some things we're just contracted to do, to experience, so that we can fully, totally understand. And it is our collective conscious that learns and grows with every issue, even when it's the negative issues.
Mm-hmm.
The collective conscious is picking up and learning things from every experience. And that's, you learn from the negative, you probably learn more from the negative than you even do from the positive.
This is true. Did we lose Spin? Oh, she's there. Okay. Every once in a while, her face pops up like that, and it'll show me the circle, and I'm thinking, okay, we lost her again. So, well, the last chat we had Wednesday, that's what we would see is her picture instead of her, it just be gone.
No, I'm getting my green goodness.
Oh, yummy. When you said green goodness, I'm assuming it's something tasty and good for you at the same time. Yay!
Her Bolt House Farm.
I
You
am
should have
still
brought the
wanting chocolate cake.
picture, and you should have said, sponsored by Bolt House Farms. You can send me all the
I
free green
wish.
goodness as you would like. Thank you very much.
Love you guys all the time.
Okay. I'm getting a message from Reagan. I'm thinking that maybe she needs. Hang on. Okay, she said that she'll be on in about 5 minutes so she doesn't look half crazy.
For her behavioral science
Yeah,
video.
should I probably should send another invite for her, right?
Uh,
I'll
Yeah.
just send the invites out again.
yeah, it doesn't. It won't hurt to send it out again.
Yeah, I'll just send the invites out again. Let's see.
She should have it still as long as she didn't open it up. It should still be there, but if not, just yeah. It won't hurt to send another one. It
Okay,
won't
well, if
stop
you
it.
get them again, then you know you're already here, so you don't have to answer.
Yeah.
I would hope I knew I was already here.
Yeah, I know I probably got lots of invites because I'm the hostess this time, so my own email's probably getting them. I'm inviting myself
Why are you inviting yourself?
because I'm already on the list.
Oh, y'all have a.
I'm the hostess, so
Well, no, I just send out individual invites.
well on
I
here
don't.
when you hit the little people button, it brings up the little list, and I just go down to the one where it says Planet Pathlings 4.
Oh, see, I just don't do
So,
that.
and I'm assuming that's hostess plus whoever else, you know.
Now I
And
can't.
so she'll be here. I can't wait to hear what she had to say because she lost an entire. She had her video worked out, edited, and lost the entire thing. Erased it by accident, and
Well,
had to come up with something.
her cat got tangled in the cord or something. The cat ate her homework. That's what happened.
I wonder, was it raw? The one she spins, right?
I think she spins them all.
Yeah. Well, Willie got his spinning today too. He got in my chair and got spun. He doesn't care. He wants to leave though when he's being spun. He doesn't care for it. Her cats like it.
Aries likes it too.
Yeah. I haven't done it with Pip. Pip just looks at me. She's just so cute and sweet, and it's like, oh, I can't do anything that might upset her tummy. Why do I baby talk when I talk about Pip?
I don't know. Why do you do that?
And that Willie, he's my.
She might be your baby.
She is the baby, but Willie, he's my baby too, but he's dumb. Willie's spoiled. He's a crybaby, and yeah, he's a big crybaby. He wants me in his sight. He does not like to be behind a closed door. If I'm in the other room, he wants me with him. And here lately, he's just been animated with everything lately. It's just.
See, I can't wait until Toy gets a kitty. Toy's gonna enjoy her kitty and be talking about it too.
Oh yeah, she'll be holding up the cat, saying, "Look at my baby." She'll be worse than anybody with it.
Well, I've had many cats, but mine died a horrible death not that long ago, and one of the reasons I divorced my husband, it played a big factor into it. So that is a difference. My cat, I heard all night one night like a baby. It was a storm that was happening, and I could hear a baby crying in a tree outside, and I was like, oh my God, all night long I worried and fretted about the sound of a baby, and it was a horrible storm, and I couldn't find anything because it was pitch black. We lived in the country. And the next morning, I got everybody off to school and everything, and I found her in our big tree in the backyard, and a mockingbird had her pinned in the tree and had been pecking her all night long, dive bombing her.
Oh,
And so I scared off the mockingbird, and she ran into the bushes near my front door, and I left the front door open, and I scared her into my house. She was probably about 3 months old or so,
Aw.
and she ran to the farthest corner of my house. So I just shut the door, and it was just me and her all day, and I just she was all the way at the back end of my kitchen area, so I put out food and water, and I just let her be. And she stayed hidden in the corner, and she did all the stuff, and by the time I was making dinner that night, my husband comes home, and he comes up to see what I'm making for dinner, and I'm just sitting there making for dinner, and he sees the cat, because she's at this point, she's finally made her way, just sitting by the dining room table. And my husband goes, "Toy, do you see that? Do you see that? There's a cat in the house." And I said, "Really? There's a cat in the house? Where? Where's there a cat in the house?" I pretended that she just showed up, and they all left her alone, and that's why I'm like, this is stupid asses. And so anyway, she ended up being, I called her Boo Ray. I called her Boo Radley Boo Ray. Boo Radley because Boo Radley was the character in To Kill a Mockingbird that was Robert Duvall's character, who was always so shy, didn't talk, but would come out to protect her, the crazy guy kind of. And so he was spooked by his own shadow kind of thing. So I called her Boo Radley. And then shortly after that, I won real big. It's a card game from Louisiana called Boo Ray. So I called her Boo Radley Boo Ray. So we called her just Boo. And she was my longtime familiar. She slept on my side when I slept, and she just, everywhere I went. If my kids started arguing in the house or my husband started raising his voice, she would start twitching her tail, and then she'd jump up and bite your lips. She didn't like it. So anyway,
Oh, there she is.
Toy has had a long-term commitment with my favorite familiar. But the 15 dogs my husband had ripped her apart and killed her. The true reason I won't have a dog ever again.
Reagan's here.
Yes.
Sorry, that was a not nice story.
I think she tried to say something, Reagan. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me okay now?
Oh, yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. I blew right through my alarm. I really have to get people to not wake me up every 15 minutes around here. So, my apologies for being so late.
That's all right. You showed up. That's the important thing.
I am here. I will not do that again.
So anyway, we already talked about a little bit about our topics. Do you want to talk a little bit about yours and catch everybody up on your stuff?
Sure, absolutely. Give me 1 second to get my computer to actually respond to me. I don't even know how I'm live chatting right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were just talking about the little kitty that Toy had.
Yeah.
We had a segment this week.
You had what this week?
I said we had a small familiars segment this week.
Oh, yeah.
She was my familiar for a long time. I had her for about 15, 16 years.
We'll definitely have to do something sometime on familiars, like on our personal familiars or the ones that we have had or, something like that.
Yeah.
We need to do that soon.
Oh, yeah, I've got that's something that no matter how hard I try, even when I was like, I don't have any animals, my neighbor's cat would come over and was my buddy, okay? I mean, you want to talk about a familiar, and that cat would, depending on the season, have to find creative ways to get in my house. And I was like, I don't I don't want any animals right now. I don't need any animals right now. That was when I was going through that whole phase. And no, I didn't have that option. So,
And I understand the one you have now ate your homework.
yes, the one I have now decided that I had been spending too much time at my desk doing too much that wasn't involving petting him. So yes. Oh, cats. Gotta love cats.
Where's Aries? Spin.
She's somewhere around here.
Yeah, well, Willie was just up on me, and Pip's happily laying on a rug in the living room.
Aries came in the room today is just happy. It's been too hot to let her in the sunroom, but since it was actually cool today, she got to go over there. She's sleeping in Papa's on chair in the sunroom.
Cats like to be warm. You ever notice that? They love warm.
Oh yeah.
Well, when it's hot, it's like putting her in a hot car. So I can't put her in there.
Yeah.
No babies in hot cars. No.
Well, that was one of the things I really wanted to dive deeper into with my study when I was touching on the Egyptians. And I did. I just said they worship their cats, and cats never forgot it, and they really haven't. You know, there's a little meme going around on Facebook that says that when you bring a dog a food, the dog thinks, "Oh, you love me. You must be a god." And the cat looks at you and says, "Oh, you're bringing me food. I must be a god." You know.
Oh, absolutely.
True.
But yeah, I would have loved to gone into, you know, the different types of gods, goddesses, and worshiping, and the different animals that they held in a very high regard. There's, you know, I mean, just in every culture I looked at, I mean, they had so much about each of the cultures, and you could just take one culture at a time and split it into, like, you know, 300 different ways and still have a topic.
Well,
Yeah.
this topic was absolutely amazing. I'm still downloaded a bunch of like PDFs that I found and saved them, and there's actually a couple books I'm going to be ordering because I was like, I need more on this. This is amazing. The information that I found just searching it out, and you know, I mean, some of it I've touched on. I mean, like the animism and stuff like that. They covered. That's why I was so pissed about losing my video because I was so excited. I actually took cultural anthropology classes. Wow, I can't talk yet. Sorry, ladies. Cultural anthropology classes on these topics. So I was like, yay, I finally get to use that thing that I'm still paying those student loans back for. So I was really excited, and then like I said, I just cats and things, and I was very, very upset that I wasn't able to upload the original information I had. But yeah, I mean, as far as magic goes, we have always, like, that's just in us. We have that primal instinct and need to place spirit on everything, and you know, I was even watching some of these, like, if you look in the links in my video, there's a link in there, and he's an atheist, and he was basically trying to, you know, debunk and tear apart magic or whatever, but he's talking about how, you know, children up to the age of 2 have this, you know, full understanding and acceptance of the mythical world and those aspects, and it's like, well, yeah, because you know it's hardwired in us to be that way and to see nature that way and to know that energy. Yeah, this topic was just amazing. I really, really, really enjoyed this.
Oh, I did too. I you know, I'm thinking maybe we ought to pick each of our topics apart. You know, again, I know we'll get back into it sooner or later, and we just really had so much fun with it. And you know, I would encourage anybody who's watching this, if you think that we're nuts because we enjoyed researching, pick a topic, any topic, and just dive into it and see if it doesn't transform you. You know, wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh yeah,
I would agree. But I
I think
love
that everyone.
research.
Well, see, that's the thing. I was like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna like this because it's a lot of research, but it was so interesting. Every corner had something new, some new information, some new thing to learn. And it's amazing when I was doing my research to see in how many different lights people who practice any form of magic were painted. Like we were saying earlier, how the Chinese did the divination and they were okay for it. People accepted that. And then also the shaman and the witch doctors or the medicine men and women, they were, praised for it. But then you get into things like the Inquisition, and even just the smallest, breath of an accusation, and you were subjected to horrible, horrible torture. And it's just going through and watching everybody's topics and videos is just really it's fascinating. It's a fascinating thing.
But anytime they're trying to politically take out another culture or tell them that that culture is beneath the society that they are in, the first thing they do is go after the spiritual and to go after all of that and say it's heathenism. They went after the Native American shamans first in those tribes. It's one of the first people that they took away from the tribe so that the tribe could not rally back after you take out their chiefs, you take out their medicine men or their shamans. And with the Chinese, what did they do to them? They literally gave them opium dens and stuff because they were also slave labor. So acceptance, no. Sometimes they tolerated because they wanted them to work hard or do something or whatever. Just like they tolerated certain things in slavery as well, because that's how voodoo and hoodoo existed. But they still had to change to hide their magic, and that's why hoodoo has very heavily incorporates the Christian religion, but it really isn't the Christian religion. They just use symbols, but they had a different African god in place of each of those saints and stuff. They found a saint that corresponded, again, another form of a pantheon, to be able to do the magic right there in front of the people who were oppressing them so that they could survive. It was a way that they could also perform magic against their owners and stuff too.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, what I'm talking more about their own peoples. When it comes to general societies, yeah, that's a totally different thing. Because
Well,
amongst your own,
yeah.
Well,
But
even
the
by today's standards, I mean,
the
us in here
people,
in the western part of the world, we go to a Chinese restaurant and we see a fortune cookie, and doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not, they crack that open and look, oh, wow, this is me. That fortune cookie, which is a form of divination. And I have recently found an ancient recipe. I would love to, I'd love to do this particular bread soon, where they make a regular bread and they put little charms and mix it up into the dough, and whatever charm you got would be representative of the kind of luck that you would have.
well,
And
that's
this
just
was an
like the
actual
king bread. The king bread that's still done here every year at Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah.
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 Well, this is one I found on when I was looking up Samhain recipes,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
somebody had put this. This was their traditional bread from where
Yeah.
they're from. And I
Mhm.
don't have the page open anymore. I'll have to relook it, but I want to make that. But I mean, these things that people look at are actual divination and might have been considered witchcraft by others. Today,
Yeah.
the biggest holy roller can go into a Chinese restaurant and open that fortune cookie, and they don't have a problem with the Chinese having their cultural differences, their religion, worshiping their Buddha, but by golly, their neighbor starts worshiping a Buddha. There's something wrong, and they're very quick to judge. They don't look at
Well,
somebody
I
that's
think
Chinese. They
there's
think, oh,
still,
that's cute, cultural. But if somebody else is doing it, they're worshiping the devil.
well, I don't know. The holy rollers here will try to convert them too. I don't. Here they go after anybody that's not going to be following their traditional Christian path. They go after them.
Oh, well, yeah,
Whether
they'll
it's
go after
yeah,
anybody, but I mean, they're actually practicing divination when they open
I
that
know.
fortune cookie,
Yeah, but I know. But those. What I'm saying is those holy rollers are going after those Chinese restaurant owners, they just can't really go into their restaurant and tell them that they can't have a Buddha there.
Oh no, and they'll leave a Christian
Yeah.
pamphlet as a tip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
or worse around here is Jehovah Witness. So yeah,
Answer the door when you see the Jehovah Witnesses knocking on your door. Answer the door, skyclad. They won't come back.
I have so much fun with Jehovah's Witnesses because I had one come. We were actually setting up for ritual that day, for a group ritual, and I said, you know, we can talk religion. That's fine. Why don't you go ahead and come on back and join us real quick while we, you know, finish setting up back here, and we can talk while I'm you know, getting my altar set up and everything. And the look. Oh, the look. No, I have to go, and they never came back. They never came back to my door.
Well, I say you hang a couple of chicken feet outside your door, they don't knock.
Well, that's the thing. People they're afraid of what they don't understand. What you don't understand, if you don't study it, and this is what I keep telling some of my other friends around here, Christian or whatever, if you don't judge me until you understand what I believe and what I know. Don't just listen to me and think you're coming to your own conclusions based on what you've been brought up with or whatever, but you have no idea of the background of any of this. And until you've studied the way I have, shut your mouth. And to me, it's ignorance. When people judge you for something that you worship, study, or do without knowing the facts themselves, that's ignorance. Pure and simple.
Well, and the thing is that was the big division point, was that whole idea of, the church and politics were hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And Christianity, it was a way to control the masses, and anyone that wasn't falling in line with that, they were easy targets, because and that was the difference between, religion and the good stuff and the okay, and magic, black magic, the dark stuff, the bad, evil stuff, was whether or not you were, part of the mainstream. And
they wanted to control you regardless, and that was the thing. And if they couldn't control you, they were going to kill you. Well, because that was their whole divide and conquer thing. To put fear. If you're not going to conform, we're going to burn you at the stake, or we're going to do whatever torture they're going to do. When they came into any country, it was never about converting people to God. It was always about, we're going to steal whatever we find in your land and take it back, and it's going to make us richer, because, the Native Americans sold them New York for some glass beads. They knew exactly what they were doing when they were stealing people's land, and they were stealing people's, the wealth of the land, whether it be gold, whether it be, tobacco, or whatever they found. It was about seizing property and money. It was always about the money. It was never about whether or not you believed in the Christian God. They didn't care. But to keep taking from the land and keep doing what they were doing, they had to control you through the church. And if you weren't going to go into the line of the church and be obedient, then we're going to kill you, because you're an enemy of the state, basically. There was a war. It was a war.
Because I can tell you anything I want to, and I can say, I need you to do this, or I want you to do this, or this is what's expected of you, and you can go, or I can go, God says,
yes, exactly.
And it starts off with, hey, let me tell you about my little friend Jesus here, and his father, and how things work, and then, hellfire, brimstone, smoke and mirrors, and then, okay, well, now you know how omnipotent and how, my God is, and he sees everything, and he knows exactly what you're doing every minute of the day. Well, he's told me he wants you to do this.
Yeah, it's a control device. But then here comes the communists, and they do the same thing in the USSR. And out of all of the religions that the communists were able to take down in their country, they took down every religion except the Muslims. And that was because the first thing they went after when they started to divide and conquer the USSR, to go into communism, to be without a God, they took all the religious artifacts. They seized Bibles, holy scriptures of any kind, the Torah or whatever. You know, all the different religions have something different. They took all the artifacts. They took all of the stuff off of the altars and stuff like that. They took away everything till the people couldn't remember how to worship, except for the Muslims. Because the Muslims only had one condition that they had to do. They had to know the direction of Mecca from where they were, and they had to drop and pray at a certain time. And they could never take that away from them. And so Russia, under the communists, that was the one religion they couldn't break in their country, was the Muslim faith. But they went after the Jewish faith, they went after the Christian faith, they went after all of them. And I don't even know what they would have done to the pagan faith. I don't know. But they didn't discriminate. They went after all faiths because they were trying to annihilate the concept of God in general, and it be just people.
Well, and they didn't. Well, and they didn't as much go after like it wasn't torn apart. You know what I'm saying? Like witchcraft and that concept, not in a sense of like your medicine women and things like that. They didn't attack that because that wasn't that was about something completely different. It wasn't about following a god. It had to do with
they weren't
spirituality
going to
and
go
nature.
after, you know, like natural healing and stuff like that, which, of course, at times had been done in the political history. Because sure, the wise women were the first to burn at the stake, and that was also a form of control because women were property, and they needed to know their place, that they were property.
Yeah.
They were just one step above a slave.
Yeah.
But not even really.
Well, and that was the big shift, is when we went from, matrifocal religions to the patrifocal. When it started, when it became more male-centric, that was the big shift. And before that, it was, more about the earth and about, whatever. And then men, in general, it became about the politics and the command and conquer everything, and and that was the difference. It's fascinating. The whole thing.
It's very fascinating. Did you know that our government in the United States was patterned off of the 5 civilized tribes governments that they'd already set up here, and but with one big friggin' difference. And the big difference was the 13 grandmothers, and it was a council of 13 grandmothers that the tribes always had. And everything had to go through the 13 grandmothers to be put forth. And it was after they took it to them and then they made their decision on it. That's the one thing the U.S. government took out, was the Council of the 13 Grandmothers, the wise women of the land, so that it would balance out the male wanting to always like fight and do what the natural male's aggression stance would have normally been.
Yeah, instead they leave it up to a congressional cabinet full of clown shoes.
Exactly. Now, yes. Yeah, the original founding fathers probably were going, crap, we should have given the 13 grandmothers. We could have had a better shot at this.
5 minutes left to be in about the hour time limit. So is there anything that any of you guys learned in particular from your topics that doing this research that you guys found really fascinating?
All of it.
Yeah, I need to do some more research.
Shoot, everything, because it's so intricately tied to every other thing. What I would like to do is to take a deity and then find the corresponding deities in each of the other pantheons, so that if you have a Hecate, then to find out how she relates to her archetype in every other kind of pantheon, because there are slight differences and stuff, and in those slight differences becomes a nuance that you can even work with a deity that you are very familiar with the energy. It would be a new expression of that same energy.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, they're just, because there's that archetype is running through all these different cultures, but because the cultures are slightly different, there is a slightly different theme to the way they handle that archetype. That would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then it also could be up to interpretation, because the energies that you see in Hecate, and then let's say another culture's goddess or god, you might see them there, but somebody else might see a totally different goddess or god. So that'd be really interesting to even everyone look at something like that and debate it and find out why people see the energies or the archetypes that they do.
Well, like the one that I'm working with right now is Hecate, because she's always been with me, but Papa Legba is the male energy of the crossroads. They're both crossroads energies, but the now interesting fact is that Hecate being the feminine aspect and Papa Legba being the male aspect. So to see their similarities, but also to figure out their differences, is also an interesting fact, because not all of if it's a goddess, she may not be a goddess in a different culture. It may be an aspect of the masculine instead. So, or it may have a masculine aspect to it in another culture too, because Hecate does not have a masculine consort. She stands alone, basically. She stands as a triple goddess, but she stands alone in the form of there's no masculine aspect that stands with her.
Yeah, and there's also tribes and stuff that don't even assign gender to their deities.
Exactly.
Which would be nice if more for that.
Yeah, so I think that we had amazing topics this week. Next week we're going to be doing altar setup, and that'll be interesting to see everybody's different variations of altars and the meanings that they draw from and give it to in their altar setup. And is there any particular facets or focal points you guys would like to have in this particular topic?
Of altars?
Mm-hmm. Like seasonal or elemental or deity.
Maybe each one of us should take a different one, like one be a more traditional altar setup, someone take a seasonal altar or an elemental altar, or maybe an altar set up to a particular deity, or also one that is for a particular thing, like a health altar. Like if you're looking for betterment of your health, sometimes you'll set up an altar just for health, or for wealth, your prosperity, a prosperity altar, or people have. There's all kinds of versions of altars.
Yeah,
and there's most people have more than one altar. Yeah. And there's ancestor altars too. Being in Samhain, that's a big aspect too.
Maybe we can all do different types of Samhain altars.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to do it traditional because number one, I don't set up like other people set up, because I feel like having to have certain rules on how you set up an altar and everything is,
I didn't mean like
more Wiccan, and I could never do that because I'm directionally challenged for one thing.
I was going to say, I didn't really mean like in traditional as in, because there's really no such thing as a traditional, because we all do things slightly to our own thing.
Unless you're like Wiccan,
I'm, more like traditional as in, this is my main setup versus this is a prosperity altar over here, or this is an elemental altar over here, or this is my Mabon altar that I do because it was the Sabbat of the time, or that kind of thing. I meant more like that, where those are, they're still traditional altars as well, just they have themes, a more themed altar.
Yeah, and for me, I'm about, the non-traditional of
Yeah.
anything.
Mhm.
Everything that I
Yeah.
do is kind of different, and a lot of people don't realize everything, even setting a dinner table is technically an
Hmm.
altered setup. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
That's what I meant, to show the different kinds of altars that people may not even realize they have in their home,
hmm
kind of thing. Yeah, that's because anytime you have, places where you have all of your grandparents' pictures and maybe they've passed, that's an ancestor altar. The mantle of your fireplace is usually an altar. The buffet table in a dining room is usually an altar. It's usually
Well,
set.
I'm probably going to do something that's a little bit more portable, personally,
Yeah.
That's true.
for
You
now.
set
But
that
I'd
up with
like
how
to
it
do
is.
the altar thing again later in the future when I can set up a permanent altar.
Yeah,
Well, I
because
think
we
that
have
some
all kinds.
traveling, they don't have permanent altars. They keep their altar, in a shoebox or a footlocker or some sort of lockbox because they are, in the closet with their paganism. So I mean, there's no such thing as a real traditional altar.
Right,
No,
exactly.
but I do have plans for a fantastic one of these days soon.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd like to do it again so when I have the space and the stuff to do one. But this time around, I'm probably going to keep it compact.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say I have some traditional things, but I have some unconditional things too. It's not all. I wouldn't say full out traditional. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
have I'll set up for when I'm if I'm getting ready to go and work. If I'm getting ready for a shoot and I'm nervous as all heck and I don't you know know exactly how I'm going to go into it because I'm having a bad anxiety issue or whatever. Um, I'll set up I'll take basically the contents of my camera bag that I'm going to be taking with me on the shoot and lay them out, in a ceremonious way on the table so that I
Mhm.
can organize and get myself focused on, okay, this is work and this is what you need and this is,
Yeah.
and it serves a lot of different purposes, but that is my altar, and that stuff will sit there until, I get ready to pack it back in my bag so I can make sure I have everything. And, I mean, that's a spiritual thing for me. Like, it really is, because it helps me ground, it helps me get focused, it helps me realize what I've got to do and set my intent for everything for the rest of that day. So, I mean, I do a lot of non-traditional things like that, but I mean, and it's stuff that a lot of people do. They don't even realize that they're doing. So yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
I could so see a lens being water or
hmm
the strap being representative of air. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I
and
could
I've
really
got
see that.
my memory cards are definitely spirit because I'm capturing those essences on them. My
Mhm.
batteries are, could be fire or,
Fire.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. You can definitely work all of the different. Yeah, and depending on if I'm bringing a lighting setup or not, I've got sandbags, I've got earth. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's a ton of different altars, and so I can't wait for our next week's discussion. We'll be talking about altar setups.
Yes.
So I guess that's it.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. If anyone who's watching this would like to ask questions for next week, you can join the Facebook group, which will be in the description for this video. And thank you to all of the co-creators on the channel for joining me for this wrap up. And thank you guys for watching.
Blessed
Bye!
be.
Bye.
Bye.